Bill McDonald, the crop, my God, master at work. Inspiration never ending as I craft these words. Lyrical master with a pen and a pen and my vision on a mission with precision. So don't beef in the definition. That's cuz I go hard like the bearded beast. And when I get knocked down, I get back on my feet. Always look up so you can't look down on me. I'm the best alive, that's me.
Welcome to the Bearded Beast Show. My name is Bill, and I am the Bearded Beast. Special episode today, one I've been waiting for a while, with my good friend Robbie Jester, and for the first time, I'm going to say it, winner of one of Netflix's hottest TV series, Pressure Cooker. Welcome, Robbie.
Hey, Bill, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, we are so excited to have you, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been a wild ride. I'm glad it's finally here. You know, I filmed last March, so keeping this secret for like almost a year at this point. It's been a rough one, but I'm good. It's glad to be out there, and the show is doing really well, and people are really relating to it, so it's awesome.
Wow, that had to be difficult, right? Because did you let anybody know, or did you have to keep it entirely a secret?
So my mom and my wife knew because they were out there for, a portion of the show.
Yeah,
but
I saw that.
You had to keep it. Yeah, I had to keep it entirely a secret. Other than that.
All right, so let's talk about that real quick, because I think when you were there, it wasn't your wife, right?
It was my fiance. Yeah, so we got married in October.
So congratulations.
Thank you very much. It was absolutely the perfect wedding day. The perfect weather, the perfect temperature, the perfect scenery. Everything went off without a hitch. It was really, truly beautiful. I wouldn't change a thing about it.
Man, that's awesome. Before, I got a series of questions for you that I put together, but before we get into that, can you give my listeners a little bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a self-proclaimed restaurant brat. I grew up in a restaurant family. My parents had a sports bar growing up. So my first job was cleaning the floors and the bathrooms in the sports bar. And this was back when you could still smoke in a bar. So I'd be taking the trash out from the night before. And of course I'm I don't know, 8, 9 years old, and the trash bags are bigger than me, and the dumpster is certainly over my head. I just remember pushing bags of trash into the dumpster and having stale beer and cigarettes falling on me and stuff like that. But there was a job to be done, and I was the one to do it. And I worked with my grandfather, and he paid me in a roll of quarters.
Wow.
And then I would take that roll of quarters and I would put it back into my parents' crane machine, and little did I know that my pup-up got me for 2 whole summers on the same roll of quarters, because he would just go back in the machine after I was done spending my money, and he would re-roll the same roll of quarters.
Oh man, that's an awesome story.
Yeah, so fast forward a few years, 12 years old, my parents took over a seafood restaurant in Maryland. I started working in the kitchen there, washing dishes, making salads, desserts. I started working on the line at 14. I started running the line at 15 when my dad took over another restaurant the next marina over.
Wow.
Took a brief detour to massage school, then went to culinary school at the Culinary Institute of America, graduated, came back to Delaware, did my dad's restaurant as chef de cuisine in the summer, did different jobs in the winter. Moved to Wilmington, Delaware. Somewhere short after that, became chef of Toscana in Wilmington. I catered Vice President Biden's, he was then Vice President Biden's daughter's wedding.
Wow.
Cooked for the King and Queen of Sweden. Moved on, opened 3 restaurants for a restaurant company as their executive chef. Won some awards, beat Bobby Flay, went on Guys Grocery Games 3 times. Then I left that company to do my own businesses. I had 3 businesses that were all food businesses, but not technically restaurants, and then bought the pizza shop. Went on the show, came home, parted ways with some of those other businesses, kept the pizza shop, and started doing private chef and event work. And it is wildly successful and extremely busy, and I'm forever grateful.
Wow, that is great. So in a way, the show has really helped you out a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes, it has helped me out a lot. There's a lot of exposure and a lot of opportunities coming my way now. I mean, the show just premiered in January, so I'm just starting now to see those opportunities and things like that come through. But really, and I know that you're a proponent of this, but like just my involvement in my community and the fact that I don't just try to drain my community of resources and shit and their money, but I try to actually give back to my community. Really, like when I started doing the private chef stuff, they just embraced me. They saw my posts about doing it. People started booking me, and then word of mouth, I started getting repeat business. And I was really booked. When the show came out in January, I was booked every single weekend, at least single bookings or if not double bookings on every day of the weekend from January on to April. And now I'm booking like late June.
Wow. That's awesome though. And you're right. I mean, community is everything. We're only as good as the people we surround ourselves with. And I see that in you. I saw that in you in the show. And I got to tell you, what an inspiration you were. I really got to know quite a bit about you by watching the show, and I really, really enjoyed seeing that side of you. You're you were so humble and graceful, and you were just an inspiration. I just saw that side of Robbie that I knew who you were and what you were about. But, man, watching you on that show was just an inspiration.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And one of the coolest parts about this show is the element that you really got to see our personalities. Even though we're playing a game and we're cooking crazy challenges and we're living in a house together and it's not a natural environment, you really got to see the core of our personalities. We weren't playing a part. I wasn't playing a part. And one of the beautiful things is like people that have worked with me or work with me currently watching the show and going, man, you were no different on that show than you are in person. And that's the biggest compliment I think I could ever get.
Yeah, that's great. So the first question I had for you was, I'm not sure how the process goes. Do you have to you got to apply for the show, I would assume, right?
So every show is different and there is an application process for every show. But how you get to that application process can be different. So for this one, they actually found me on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
Yep. The casting agent I saw her liking my businesses and then me last. And then she sent me a pamphlet about the show. And then that's, we went from there. Okay. You still have to go through the whole application process and the whole process like everybody else does. But they're doing a lot more active recruiting now. So your presence on social media, your brand on social media, it matters, especially in the hospitality space.
All right. So when did you find out that you were going to be on the show? And I can't imagine, what did that feel like when you found out?
Yeah. So we filmed springtime, like March, April of last year. I think I started the application process in like September. I didn't find out that I was going to officially be on the show until like towards the end of February.
Wow. So
it was lots of interviews, lots of paperwork, lots of stuff. And then finally they let me know about, 10, 15 days before we were leaving that I was selected.
So what was that feeling like? Did you get a phone call? Was it a letter in the mail? How did you find out that you were going to be on?
It was a phone call. I was in the middle of taking a class, and I got the phone call from who we called the casting mom. Mm-hmm. And because she's kind of wrangling you, making sure you had all your paperwork and all your ducks in a row. And she called me, and I stepped out of the class, and she was like, hey, how are you? How are you doing? What are you up to? And I was like, yeah, I'm taking a class right now. How are you? What can I do for you? How can I help? And she was like, well, you could help by clearing your schedule after this date because you're going to come out and be on our show. And I the process had been so long that I just started crying.
Wow.
Just felt super incredibly grateful for the opportunity. It was like anybody that has ever done any show, not just food shows or anything, the casting process is a very up and down process. It's very hot and cold. Even for Guys Grocery Games and Beat Bobby Flay, the process was very hot and cold because they're filtering through. I don't blame them. They're filtering through thousands of applicants, right?
Right.
So they have to filter, and it takes time to do that. And they can't be making you feel okay the entire time while they're filtering that. So, it was super emotional, and I was very happy for it. but they didn't give us a whole lot of details about the show specifically. That's a question that a lot of people ask, is like, did you truly not know like what was going on a day-to-day basis? We didn't. Like, they didn't tell us anything. We didn't know we were going to be judging ourselves. None of that.
Well, see that.
So when the tickets,
it's funny you mention that.
Printed.
It's funny you mention that, because that's actually my second question. Like, one of the most interesting things I saw when I was watching the show was how you guys were going to be judging each other.
Yeah.
So you didn't know any of that.
And no, we didn't. And we didn't even know that, like, we didn't know that that was going to be the case the entire show. So they left it very open-ended that, like, maybe tomorrow there is a judge. Maybe there's not a judge. Like, so we were always guessing, and we didn't know what was going on until, like, the ticket printed. Then we knew what the next thing was. But even down to, people think that we knew that, like, the blind taste tester was going to be safe from elimination, and we had no idea.
Wow.
Even down to the last challenge where there was a blind taste tester and I was the blind taste tester, still didn't know you were going to be safe.
Wow. When I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, if that was the way it was going to go the whole show, I would almost be, were you ever worried about like upsetting someone else, that maybe they would purposely not judge your dish well?
So, yeah. I mean, once we figured out that that's kind of how it was going to go, yes, I was worried, but also I wasn't too worried, to be honest with you, because after I saw like that the House voted on the bottom three the first time around, I was like, okay, well, here's where the game's played. So, like, if the blind taste tester like knows it's mine and they don't like it, well, that's one thing, but the rest of the House has to vote me out too.
Oh, okay.
And I think Ed was we'll call him the most senior of us on the show, but I think that I was next to Ed, and like this many years on the planet, like I'm just confident in my rapport building skills.
Yep.
Confident that most people I encounter like me, although I'm not for everybody, and that's fine. By the way, can we curse on this show?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Good. Now I feel more comfortable. Yeah, so it's just like you when you're on the planet for a certain amount of time, it's like, I know most people that I come in contact with, at least on a basic level, are going to like me. And then the ones that don't, fuck them. And that's kind of how I treated the competition. I did. So when I had the moment when Lana went home and I got really upset about it, because it was the first time that it was really obvious that the game was being played.
Yep.
So I was even more angry than you got to see on the episode. And afterwards I was like, well, shit, that might be something that sends me home.
Okay. But your true passion came right out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, they were scared to death of her. Like, she was in that group. She was the person with the most extensive, admirable resume. They saw how she cooked and how beautiful her food was, and they absolutely sent her home because they were afraid of her, and not because. And it, truth be told, like, Gina kind of gets the rep on the show for being the villain, if you will, but there were two other people in that group that made Lana go home, and it was not Gina. Gina was a pawn to be used in that. And there was, I'll just come out and say it. There was one dish. Her name, the person who made it, her name rhymes with Schmereline, that the guests at the table really did not like that dish. Now, you can say what you want about, oh, this person contributed this person contributed that, but they made it very clear that each one of us had our own dish. Like, there was a dish that was your dish, and the worst comments were about that dish, like, by far.
Wow.
Like, as a matter of fact, the only dish that they really liked on that menu for that challenge was Lana's dish.
Wow.
The guests who are our family. So they immediately went into fallout mode. And, well, you know, they made a comment about my gnocchi, and Lana made the gnocchi, so it's Lana's fault. Lana goes home. And I'm like, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's my restaurant, and I might not put that pizza out, but if that pizza's fucked up, it's on me.
Right. I mean, that's part of leadership, right? Extreme ownership. So
There is, which is also why I think in a different finale scenario that there's very few people that could have beaten Mike in a finale scenario.
Yeah.
And honestly, very few people I think could have beaten me in a finale scenario, because I owned every mistake that I made the entire competition, and so did he. And I just don't think that there were quite a few others that didn't. And people see that, you know, people can tell you're lying.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. You know, I got to say, when I first watched the show, I wasn't a fan of Mike, but he grew on me.
Everyone says that. Yeah.
I was like, man, I don't know how I would deal, because, you know, me and my wife, we watched the show Big Brother. Don't know if you've ever seen it or not.
Oh yeah, big fan.
And it kind of reminded me, okay, so you guys didn't know each other at all. You got to live in this house with everybody. It kind of reminded me of a cooking edition of Big Brother.
And that was how it was pitched to us. So it was pitched to us as Top Chef meets Big Brother.
Ah, okay. So, see, for me, I don't think I would make 1 week in the Big Brother house. And my wife always says that. She says, you'd be the first one voted out. And it's because, see, I live with that same concept, though, Robbie. If, you know, I'm going to be who I am, I'm not going to change who I am just because I see that certain people may not like me. If you don't like me, fuck it. I'm still going to be who I am. I'm going to go on about my life. And I can't be concerned about, you know, overly concerned about people who I think don't. If I get caught up in that, I'm never going to progress forward.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's a lesson that you learn, right? That's a muscle that you build. It's not like I don't think anybody just like grows up past adolescence and they're like, you know, fuck what other people think. I mean, some people might be, and that's great, but like, you can't, like, it absorbs so much of your mental space if you're worried about.
Oh my God, it takes so much of your energy. Yeah.
And it's like, you know, and I'm not infallible with it, right? Like when the show first came out, there was tons of hate on the internet. It's remarkable to me how many losers can sit in their basement, watch reality TV, get so invested in the outcome of a show, and when it doesn't go the way that they want it to, they are so appalled and so upset. It is so significant in their life that they have to reach out to a stranger and say really mean shit to them. And when the show first came out, there was a lot of that.
Wow. So were people doing that to you?
Oh yeah. Like, you don't deserve to win. Mike's the better chef. You cried your way to $100,000. Like lots of, and I would get emails and shit like that. And it's like funny because like as soon as it came out, it was like 80% positive and 20% negative. But the 20% negative was so mean that It was like, what is going on? And now, you know, it's really shifted. And now I feel like it's, you know, 99.5% positive, and there's like 0.5% that's negative. But man, people get invested, and when it's kind of like mirrors society right now. People get really invested in what they think is right, and with no ability to like say that, you know, maybe even though you think it's right, that's not the way the world is. And you know, that was the case here. And I went through a process with that where it started out where I was like, man, you know, maybe they're right. Maybe I didn't deserve to win. And then I was like, well, I did. And then I started going, well, okay, if I went up against this person in the finale, do I think I would have won? If I went up against this person and this person. And then after like all of that analysis, I was like, well, who are these people to say anything to me anyway? So I started looking at their profiles when they would reach out to me. And I'm like, whew, you got 22 followers? That means if you walk your neighborhood, less than one person in your neighborhood gives a shit that you exist. Like, and then I just started like going at people. And it's funny because they tell you not to do that, right? They're like, don't give them a platform. Yeah. Don't make them famous. And I was like, no, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. And I did it probably 3 or 4 times where I just verbally ripped somebody's face off, and it almost stopped altogether.
Well, you know,
It was pretty amazing.
and I know you've heard it, and we've all heard it, but so those to me sounded like those were probably your haters, right? We all need to have haters because if we have haters, that means we're doing some shit right.
Yep, I think it's Cat Williams that said, if you got 9 haters, you better try like hell to get the 10th.
Yeah. So, was there a point at any time during the show where you felt like you had an advantage and like maybe you were a front runner to win?
I definitely think that the confidence scales shifted. Probably for me right around the dessert challenge. Because even though I didn't win the dessert challenge, I felt like I was finally hitting a stride and making my food. And that people were being receptive to it and I was being respected. And I knew once Ed left the house, Ed's my boy. I talk to Ed every day.
Okay.
But once he left the house, I was like, there is no one else in this house that, and it sounds weird to say this out loud. I was like, there's no one else more likable in this house right now.
Then
There's also no one else in this house that has never been up for elimination. And that's a powerful position to come from.
right. So how difficult was it living? So you didn't know any of these people going into it, right?
No.
So you enter. You were the first one in, right?
I sure was, yep.
What was that like when you walked through the door?
Surreal. They don't let you see it ahead of time. They really, you walk in and you experience it all for the first time, and it's overwhelming, right? But you're also, I'm a competitor, so I'm walking through and I'm enjoying, looking at it, finally seeing this vision that I've had come to fruition of me being in this house. But I'm also looking around and going, okay, where is this? Where is that? Remember this. You're going to need this. There's the competitive part of me that was being very tactical about where I spent my time. If you notice in that walkthrough, I spent most of my time in the kitchen area because I wanted to know where everything was at.
Wow. That all right. So you're put into a house. There was how many chefs came?
There was 11 of us all together.
All right. So 11 strangers. What was the hardest thing living? Let's not say cooking wise, but just living wise with 11 people you haven't known.
Honestly, the day-to-day living with 10 other chefs wasn't that bad. Being away from home and being away from your family and no contact and stuff like that, that was the hardest part. And I was going through some things in business at the time that made it extremely difficult for me to be away. So that kind of disconnection was difficult. But I got to be honest, my housemates made it really a lot easier to be away. There was not any friction. I would say the only thing that was really difficult is when I'm ready to go to bed, I'm going to fucking bed. And the way that it works on set is the lights really don't go out until the majority of everyone is kind of on their way to bed. So if they were all staying up drinking and having a good time, Papa Bear is trying to go to sleep.
Oh, and the lights are still on.
And the lights are still on. So I would say that was probably the most difficult part. But really, you're living with other hospitality people, and I think that's so much different. And I think the casting department did such a fantastic job of putting a great group of people together that it was really tremendous to just be around them. And we all supported each other, which was fantastic. We had great conversations that we had socially, around family meal. We would do themed nights.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
We would make each other dinner and do Taco Tuesday and pizza night and Indian night and breakfast for dinner and stuff like that. So we had a great time. So that part was easy. It was just being away that was really hard.
So, I mean, I know how competitive you are, but put aside the competitiveness. I saw you created some amazing relationships, it looked to me in there. So when you were creating these relationships with your other house guests, was it difficult to go into competitions knowing at some point you could possibly eliminate them?
The hardest part of every day, it's getting me emotional that you just asked me. Nobody asked me that question, by the way, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
The hardest part of my everyday, despite like how I felt about how they played the game or whatever, was when somebody went home. Because the mentor in me, the encourager in me was like, man, I mean, so there's a clip in the ad for the show that never got aired in that actual show. And it's me in the confessional room crying and going, that's a stone cold way to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when Liv went home, the first challenge.
Oh, wow.
I was absolutely, she deserved to go home. She made a fatal flaw in her dish. And when you compete, that's just how it is. But I just felt terrible that she was the youngest person in the house. She was going home based off of one dish that she had made. She never got a chance to shine. And what that would do to her mentally just crushed me.
Right.
I felt so bad for her. And then subsequently, every time somebody went home, it was the shittiest part of the day, regardless of how I felt about them.
So how often did that happen? Like, how long did it take you guys to film the show? How many days after an elimination were there another one?
I would say someone was eliminated like every other day, and there was like maybe one or two like 2-day shots where nobody got eliminated and they were the ones where people had to like do a cook-off to stay in the house. So like when Brian and Ed had to do a cook-off, I think there was like a 2-day break there where nobody got eliminated. And then when Ed, Gina, and Renee had to make chocolate dishes, I think there was a 2-day break there too. So it was like every 2 or 3 days someone went home. Yeah,
emotionally that's got to be hard, right? Because you're looking at how many people are left, and then every couple of days there's someone else gone, right? And
it is, and like you're in the house with all of these people, and they're your competition, but they're also your support system,
right?
So every single conversation that you have matters. It matters to how you feel and how they feel. And you know, I took the stance early on in the house, and it's a shame, like I said, that more of the social conversation didn't get to air, but I was the encourager. Even there was like a point early on where Sergey was like questioning his talent level and questioning his like place in the culinary world or whatever. And I was like, dude, like, I'm going to tell you something about you right now. You're extremely talented for what age you are. And of any of us in this house, if you put a plate down in front of us now, I'm going to know which one is yours. And to have that sense of culinary identity at your age is an asset. It's amazing, and I admire it.
Wow.
Because I still think, you know, after all these years of doing this, and I've been doing this since I was 12, I'm still trying to figure out what my culinary identity is. And the answer that I keep coming up with, it's fluid because it changes all the time. But he is just his culinary person, his type of chef, as is Caroline. Caroline's, her, like, style is incredibly unique to her and feels very organic how she develops dishes and develops flavors. And I see her Instagram now, and I'm like, she's working on some ramen stuff, and it just like, I'm like, that feels like her personality is coming out in the bowl. Like, it's just amazing, and I admire that. But I took on the task of being the encourager. That's who I am on a daily basis anyway, but I just felt like I needed to be that support for these guys, especially the younger people.
All right, so since we're kind of on that topic, was there a dish that someone made that absolutely blew you away? Like you were just like blown away by the flavor or how it was created?
So I would say there wasn't really a single dish that blew me away. It was more like watching things that people put together or things that people did. Renee's, although I'll say, even though I don't think it deserved to be first place in the chocolate challenge because it was a chocolate challenge,
mm-hmm.
The grilled prawn dish that Renee made with the white chocolate, I don't know, salsa or succotash or whatever underneath of it, that shit was delicious. Like like I said, I don't even, like succotash or whatever it was underneath that shrimp was probably the most delicious bite of food I've tasted the entire competition.
So did you discover
Was it-
things there that you had never seen before? Like, did people put dishes together that you had never heard of or seen, or think that like this would go with that?
So I pride myself on being very well rounded and staying up with trends. So like I'm aware of all of these techniques and combinations and stuff like that, but being aware of them and then doing them in practice was another thing altogether. So it's like very early on, I saw Caroline do something, and I walked over to her in the free time, and I was like, "Hey, could you show me that?" And with Mike, he made like Dippin' Dots on like day 2 or something like that, and I was like, "Yo, man, how do you make the?
Yeah, I
how
saw
do you
that.
do the Dippin' Dots?" And then I turned around and made Dippin' Dots in the finale. And there was lots of stuff like that I was like, wow. And then the pantry, there were condiments and vials and bottles of things from all over the world in that pantry. It really was like a chef's wet dream.
Wow.
And so I went through on like day 2 and I just started tasting everything because I hadn't been exposed to like a lot of those like obscure Japanese ingredients and stuff like that. I just remember getting to one thing and tasting it, and it blew my entire palate out. I started drinking water. I was like, my tongue's numb. Like, what is going on? And then when Sergey like woke up, I was like, yo, man, you know what this is? He goes, oh, that's the Szechuan pepper extract. I was like, oh, yep, that makes sense. Well, I can't feel my tongue now. So it was like I was trying to learn as much as possible. And to be honest with you, when you're like doing the day-to-day in the restaurant business as a chef, like you develop in like your downtime, and you don't have a lot of downtime unless you're actively working for someone else. So that period of time on the show, I developed more as a chef in that, 3.5 weeks of being on that show than I had probably the previous 6 years in the business.
Okay, so that was one of my questions. So you must have had some like downtime, free time on the show. Were you guys allowed to like cook then? You could make whatever you wanted?
Yeah, we could use whatever was there. We could cook whatever we wanted. There was a certain point in time, where it was like, hey, like get out of the kitchen, go to bed or go read a book or something. But we really could use whatever was left over in the kitchen, and we cooked for each other all the time. And, Renee would make breakfast. She makes fantastic breakfast. Mike would make dinner, or I would make dinner, or I did pizzas on the show, which you never got to see. There were some good looking pizzas though.
Were you guys allowed to contact anyone like at home? Did you still have your phones? Could you make any phone calls?
No. So you can't have any contact. So no phone, no internet.
Oh man, that must have. I'll tell you what, that would probably be one of the hardest things for me.
Yeah, it was the hardest part. So there were 2 times where they gave you like a little bit of time on your phone, but it was supervised.
So do you still stay in contact with the other competitors from the show? I know you talked. You said you talked to Ed.
Yeah, so we're all on like a group text, and we probably use that. We use that like, I don't know, every week, every other week, check in with each other. But Ed, I talk to just about every day. Gina, I talk to probably every 2-3 days. Lana here and there. Lana does so much traveling, I don't want to like bother her in transit. So we chatted up, and we're working on possibly doing some projects together. Ed and I are definitely working on some projects together. Gina and I are going to do a couple dinners together. She's coming out to see me in a couple weeks. I've got locally in Delaware, we've got a huge high school culinary culture, and they do a huge competition every year. It's called the Pro Start competition. It's teams of 4 to 5 kids, and they have to make 3 courses in an hour on 2 portable burners. That's the only like gas equipment they're allowed to have. So we've got, I want to say like 20 culinary teams in the state of Delaware that compete. And the winner goes to nationals, and then at nationals so last year Delaware won first at the National Pro Star competition. So first out of like 51 teams or something like that. So huge culture. Delaware has the benefit of being small, so all of the talent in the state is within 2 hours driving distance. So we really come together and all coach these kids. So Gina and Ed are coming out for a couple of like celebrity chef panels and to just hang out and enjoy the time with us.
So besides the money, which I know had to be amazing for you to win, do you believe that what were some of the biggest things that you took away from the show? That did it teach you any new skills or help sharpen some of the ones you already had?
I would say the number one lesson from the show, and I knew this beforehand, and I know you know this, relationships in life are everything.
Everything.
How you behave, how you interact, how you hold yourself accountable in your relationships in life is everything. So I would say for me, yes, the money is great. I haven't gotten it yet, but the money is great, but the relationships are worth far more than any cash prize ever could be. And that's from a professional standpoint, as well as a personal standpoint and a social standpoint and just a love in your heart standpoint. Other things that I learned on the show, I am way better than I give myself credit for. I am my own worst critic when it comes to the food that I make. I have a tendency to go through the motions because of just the day-to-day. And since leaving the show, I've stopped doing that and really put a lot of intention into my craft and my food and, the end product that I put on the plate. It's weird saying this, but I could tell you before I went on the show, there were 0 times in my career where I tasted my own food and said, fuck, that's good.
Wow.
And there have been at least 20 since the show where I've put something together, a new dish on a plate or something like that, and gone, fuck, that's delicious.
Yeah, but man, that's good because we are our worst critic. We self-sabotage ourselves, right?
Yep.
Like we would never let
absolutely.
anybody else talk to ourselves like we talk to ourselves. Like
Absolutely.
some of the things I say to
100%.
myself, if somebody said to me, I'd probably punch them right in the mouth, but we do that to ourselves. And if you even got that out of just being on the show, I would almost even say that's right up there with relationships and the money, because if you have the ability to not do that anymore in your brain and self-sabotage yourself, you can go anywhere.
Yeah, and you and I kind of like listen to the same sort of stuff. We watch the same sort of stuff. The gift that show gave me is I now recognize when I'm having that internal conversation that and I've said that what you just said to me, I've said, if someone else had said this to me, I'd probably punch them in the face.
Mm-hmm.
I notice when that negative talk is coming into my brain now so fast, and I literally say that to myself, like, look, if somebody else said this to you, you would be pissed. And redirecting that conversation and asking myself, is that true? Is that absolutely true what you were saying? And almost 100% of the time it's not. It's just these debilitating thought processes that you beat yourself up about because of life and past situations and all that shit. But just like you've learned it, you can unlearn it. And it's a process. It takes time. And I noticed that conversation happening now, and I flip it. I read a great book when I came home. It's called Loving What Is. And it's basically like asking yourself those questions when you're having those moments of doubt, like, is this true? And then, initially you're like, of course it's true. But then, is it absolutely true? Could it be possible in this universe that it is not true? And walking yourself through that, most of the time you don't make it past the second question, although there are more, because almost nothing is absolute.
All right, what was the name of it? I'm going to have to check it out.
It's called Loving What Is.
All right, I'm definitely going to check that out.
It's not the easiest read on the planet, but it is extremely valuable.
Was there a favorite challenge you had during the show?
I loved all the team challenges because I loved that dynamic. So I would have 2 answers to that. One, I loved the cheese challenge. I got 3rd place. If you ask the other competitors, they would all say that I deserved to get 1st place because I was cheese forward and I had by far the prettiest dessert plate. And I love challenges like that where it's like, okay, let's fold in something that doesn't go here and make it taste good. And I was really proud of what I put out for that dish. Other than that, the challenge where we cooked for our family, the seasonal favorites challenge, me, Mike, Renee, Ed, cooking for family. Because I'm going to tell you what, when those girls decided to not be on Mike and I's team and they changed their mind, I watched that very, very sweet, very funny, extremely faith-forward man go on a mission to put somebody down.
Wow.
And being a part of that energy where he was like, I don't care if Gordon Ramsay walks in this door and he's on their team, he is going down.
Wow.
Just did not care. It was amazing.
Did you guys know that your family were coming?
No idea.
Oh, so that was an absolute surprise, huh?
Yes, and it was perfectly timed. Absolutely needed it at that time.
I can't imagine what that felt like. So no clue, no idea. They just opened up the door and there they were.
Yep.
Wow. All right, Robbie, we're heading into our last two questions. And here's one that I'm really interested to hear. What advice would you give to a younger Robbie today? And what advice would you give someone who might be afraid to take a chance at becoming an entrepreneur?
The advice that I would give to a younger Robbie today is not everything is a matter of life and death.
Wow, that's good.
I took that, and also stop taking advice from leaders that you don't admire.
Oh, that's another great one. There's a lot of them out there on the internet, aren't they?
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. From their parents' garage telling you how to do your job.
When you finally look them up,
better.
When you finally look them up, they haven't done shit. Yep.
They're really good at making a video and talking in front of a cell phone camera.
Boy, that is a really good one.
But I took, as you age and as you go through life, like when I was younger, I took everything so seriously. Like every mistake, every bad plate, every bad interaction, like they were just the end of the world. And it's just not the case. Like you gain resiliency as you grow up. And it's like, if I had known at 15 years old that I would go through the things that I've gone through and survived them, I think that it would have given me a lot of perspective. So that's the big thing for me. And a big book that helped me out there too was How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
So that's the name. Is that the name of the book?
Yep.
Okay.
It sure is. And I want to say it is, I think it's Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. If not, it's Napoleon Hill. It's one of the two. What was the second question?
Well, I know that there's a lot of younger people who just might be afraid to enter into entrepreneurship, and we always think like we have to work for somebody else our whole life, right? And just never take a chance or never take a leap. What advice would you give to somebody? You've done this, right? So you've been in this field, you've worked in this field. I would say that I believe you're living your passion, right? You're living your dream.
Yes.
I don't know what the percentage is, but I would think a lot of people don't do that.
They sure don't. But a lot of people also have different lines of passion. Maybe their passion is being an awesome mom. Maybe their passion is, being a fantastic teammate. So everyone's passion is different. I do think that 95% of people never ask themselves what their passion is. They just react to things throughout their life until they eventually have reacted every single day for 85 years. And then they leave us never having really played any of their music or sang any of their songs. They just reacted to everything going on around them their entire life. And there's power in being intentional. as far as, a new entrepreneur or somebody thinking about entrepreneurship, if you consistently work for other people and you have a problem with authority on a daily basis and you find yourself frustrated that you can't move things along as fast as you want to, you probably should try out being an entrepreneur, because the problem isn't the people you are working for, the problem is you.
I agree.
And it's not a bad thing. The problem is that you are not meant to fit in. You are a square peg trying to go in a round hole, and that is not going to ever work.
I totally agree. All right, so what's next for you, Robbie? What do you got going on?
So my tendency as a person is to just go, 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 go. So for the remainder of 2023, I'm actually going against that nature and saying, okay, let's just get fantastic at what we're doing right now. So I'm just trying to drill in and own and run the best pizza restaurant that I can run. I'm trying to build my private chef and event business to I'm not just looking for catering events where we just, drop off a couple trays of chicken and call it a day. But I want to really create meaningful, memorable events. And this private chef work in people's houses, private chef work has been a blessing for me. It's helped me reinvigorate my passion for the business, and it's because there's so much variety. So I want to just develop this private chef network into this private chef business into a private chef network where other people that are looking to moonlight or get their creativity back can come to this space and serve people and make great food that fulfills them.
All right, so where can people find that? Where can they get a hold of you for that?
They can do that at RobbieJester.com.
All right, and give us the name of your pizza restaurant and where is it?
Yeah, it's Pizzeria Mariana.
All right, Robbie, I'm so appreciative you came on the show. I want to wish you another congratulations. You were you were an inspiration. The show was fantastic. I love talking to you. Maybe there's a chance we can get you back on.
Yeah, I'd love to come back on anytime you would have me.
Awesome. I totally appreciate you coming on, Robbie. I wish you the best of luck. We'll be in touch. And go get him, brother. You're an inspiration to me. Bill. And, watching that show, I gained so much respect for you. And I get up every day. And I was waiting for this opportunity to talk to you because I just wanted to tell you that I really appreciate what you do, who you are, and who you are just as a human being.
Thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate it.
I will talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. Have a great one.
You too.
See you. Bye.
You from McDonald's, the baddest that I would turn to. CEO with the shit that's a dope motherfucker. He'll always win. There's no going under. The top of the crown resting on his head. The beast is alive. He'll never be dead. If you tried before, bring it back to life. Push harder for it. Let us survive. Show courage and strength. It's okay to be scared, but don't let it stop you. Always stay prepared. Build, show, and school. They're just not beginning. Winners fucking win. Losers talk about winning.